How many of you here want to change the world? Awesome. Now, how many of you feel like you know how to do that? Maybe not as many of us. Yeah, everybody over here, right? I'm here tonight to share with you a bit more about social entrepreneurship as an incredibly effective way to create social change, but more so how I'm fostering that skill set with the next generation of young women. My name is Allison Tanker, and I'm the founding director of Tigress. Tigress is a social enterprise that empowers young women through experiential learning opportunities and entrepreneurship, ultimately to help them become more confident, passionate, and creative leaders. We do this by partnering with high schools and universities in the region to help them run workshops, coaching, and club sessions that help young women foster the skill set and mindset that ultimately allow them to figure out how to take their ideas and put them into action and therefore impact their community. I'm a firm believer in entrepreneurship as a tool for empowerment based on the 8 years experience I have in this field, but also the experiences I had working internationally in Latin America, the Caribbean, and the UK, where I was coaching and training micro-entrepreneurs and social enterprises that were founded by Richard Branson, Bono of U2, and Ashoka Fellows. And in these experiences, we kept seeing this pattern of women really finding their sense of self-worth and becoming into this sort of transformational process while they were bringing their own ideas into action and ultimately impacting their communities. In order to continue providing that transformational experience, I returned back to our hometown here of Cleveland to inspire this next generation of young women in a similar way. Back in August 2013, I started doing my research and found out that 74% of young women listed their favorite activity as improving the world around them. Yet only a third felt that they could be a leader in that space. And this is specifically indicative of the confidence gap that generally starts to develop for young women in their early teens. And this is what happens when there's a lot of expectations put on them by family, friends, the media, society in general, ultimately really affecting their sense of confidence and what they can achieve. Another gap I identified in my research, when specifically looking at the entrepreneurship education space here in the region, was that for every 3 students studying entrepreneurship, only 1 of them was a woman. Furthermore, within the millennial space, there's a huge interest for young people that are interested in studying certain types of careers that will allow them to ultimately make an impact. Again, within our own community, only about 20% of those schools in our area are offering any kind of curriculum in social entrepreneurship. So in order to address these gaps, I created the Tigress program with a specially designed changemaker curriculum that incorporates human-centered design thinking, lean startup methodologies, all with the focus of social impact. The intent is really to provide these young women with a toolkit which really moves them through the process, starting with identifying a social problem, reframing it as an opportunity, moving through to empathy interviews where they understand the needs of people and do some market research. From there, then designing an innovative solution to that problem, putting an action plan together, and ultimately implementing that work. Because it's through that process that they really start to learn a lot more about themselves and foster a whole host of skills. These skills include innovation, creative problem solving, empathy, design thinking, action planning, self-awareness. In addition to these skills, our impact data is showing that 92% of the young women that participate in our programs are more confident creating social change and implementing their ideas. And the reason this data is so compelling is if we reflect back to the earlier statistic that only a third of these young women generally feel like they can be a leader that influences the world in a positive way, knowing that programs like Tigress that ultimately provide them with the tools and experience to gain these types of skills and mindset can ultimately shift their own perception of themselves as a leader and really reduce that confidence gap 3 times over. In addition to the social value we're creating for our users being the young women, we're also creating social value for our partners and customers being the high schools and colleges. We've partnered with over 16 different schools in the area over the past 1.5 years who've explained to us the different levels of value. The first of which they've mentioned is that they're able to recruit and retain more students with this type of innovative programming. They're also able to embed entrepreneurial thinking and skills in the future workforce, which are very much these 21st century skills that most of the universities are interested in at this stage. Additionally, they're able to empower women innovators, which, as we know, is receiving a lot of attention with regards to the STEM fields, but in addition, within entrepreneurship, we saw that gap earlier of only 1 woman to every 3 men that are part of these programs. And lastly, they're able to really invest in problem-solving leaders and developing them to go out there into the world as our next emerging leadership. The flow of our programming that we've developed out with our partners starts with a promotional event. We do this by engaging the students in a conversation around social entrepreneurship, discussing the concepts and female leadership and how to ultimately create social change. We then flow into our weekend workshop where we get our hands on experience of moving from that idea all the way through action in order to launch a social change project by the end of the weekend, really going through that self-discovery process and gaining those skills along the way. The latter part of the partnership includes a club chapter where we're able to continue building that sense of community for these young women, where they can be around other like-minded ladies, but also continue to build out their ideas and foster social change. We have 3 different revenue streams at this stage. Our workshops have a fee that's attached. We have an hourly coaching rate as well as a monthly club membership fee. As you see into year 2017, we incorporate a licensing model which will allow us to really scale out the impact to really sell this curriculum off to a variety of other schools nationwide. What's exciting is that once we get to that stage, we're really able to start impacting a wider number of young women with a goal of affecting over 2,000 by 2018 on an annual basis. In order to continue accelerating our growth and impact, an investment tonight would allow us to continue growing our partnerships here locally, but also to help us design an educator guide, which will be the first step towards that licensing model. If this is something that's of interest to you and feeling you're interested in this journey, I invite you to come and speak to me afterwards and continue the conversation so that we can together go out there and empower more confident, passionate, and creative female leaders for the next generation. Thank you very much.